Welcome to Best Year Ever, a podcast designed to inspire growth and impact so you can have the best year ever. I'm your host, Rob Cressy, and joining me today is Joe Lucchese, Executive Vice President at Groundswell Experiential. Joe, great to have you on the show.
Thanks, Rob. It's great to be here, buddy. Really appreciate it.
Today's topic, following your North Star. And Joe, I wanted to have you on the show because you are someone who inspires me. You're part of Team Good Vibes. And you're also someone who's a great example of growth and impact. I very much have looked up to you in the way that you've built your business and your brand and in the level of excellence in everything that you do, the way that you engage people. So what I really wanted to do was talk about two things. One, the importance of your vibe, and then two, following your North Star, because I know they're both something that have contributed to your success. You ready to do this?
Definitely. Let's go.
Cool. So let's start with number one, the importance of your vibe. And I'm someone, definitely a leader of Team Good Vibes. I'm an energy guy because energy is transferable. But one thing I've always noticed in everything that you do is there's a vibe to it. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So let's take it, for example, from a scientific perspective. I think you kind of hit on this, like energy is transferable. So energy is never created or destroyed, it always exists. And that's science. And that applies to anything that energy pertains to, which is just about, it is everything. So if we're able to harness that power from our mind, from our actions, and give that out, it'll come back to us. And I learned this at an early age, the importance of being kind, good ethics, good work ethic as well. And a lot of that was taught to me from my father. And I've made it a mandate to follow that in my life and in my business because it's not wise to carry grudges. It's not wise to have that negative energy. And ultimately, if your goal is something to build, is something to grow, and something to help, you're going to surround yourself with those experiences, and those experiences will come to you. So for us at Groundswell, formerly Project, and now in my daily life, it is all about good vibes. And I think a lot of people look at that as a hocus pocus mindset, but it's actually pretty true. So think about this. If I'm able to be dedicated and diligent enough to save money each day and work towards a goal, that's the same sort of vibe and energy that you need to put towards building a business, building a brand. It's a small step each and every day. And if I can control those small steps each and every day, I'm for certain to find the success that I seek.
You said something that I think is super important. So, as we look at how others can do this, you said controlling. So, for myself, as I think about how do you be a leader of Team Good Vibes? How do you put out a positive energy? It's very simple. You control your inputs. So good in, good out. I know on my end, from a very tactical standpoint, the very beginning of my day is so sacred to me. And really, this is the first, let's call it 2, potentially 3 hours of every single day when I am doing personal development, whether that's learning or reading, meditating, journaling, gratitude, working out, the things that I do to develop myself before the rest of the world gets there. And why is that important? Because how you start your day is going to dictate how the rest of it is going to be. And there's an energy that goes when you build momentum and you're in flow. And here's the thing, I am in flow literally from the second that I get up. It doesn't mean that I'm doing round off back handsprings in my kitchen while I'm trying to get coffee. It just means I'm losing myself in the thing that I'm doing, and I'm engineering my vibe and my energy to attract the things that I want. And as I look at over the last 2 months, the biggest game changers for me, it is a realization around my being and how I can cultivate and create my being to create that energy. And that energy is going to help me grow and have more impact.
Yeah, I think we have a choice every morning, and that's a really good point, Rob. About what do you do in the first hour, 2 hours, 3 hours of your day will dictate the rest of it. But we all have a choice. life's not easy. Building businesses aren't easy. It could be really taxing, and sometimes it could be frustrating and depressing, but that's your choice. And it's also the choice when you wake up, the first thing to grab your phone and look at social media. It could be your choice to not do that and do something that may serve you better, which could be, like you said, journaling and meditating. And I think the decision that we have, the choices that we have, or at least the realization that we have a choice, is often forgotten. People sometimes forget that they do have a choice. They have a choice to change something, they have a choice to build something. It's those that act upon those choices that I think find better results for themselves.
Amen to that. And as we look at how do you make this the best year ever, month ever, week ever, day ever, hour ever, moment ever, it really comes down to these choices. Because, Joe, when I look at the experiences that you and your company create and the energy and the vibe that are a part of it, it really starts by you engineering who you are and the way that you see the world. And then the way that you see the world is to give people an experience that they're going to lose themselves in, where it's going to be flowing, it's going to be exciting, and there's an energy. And you cannot give to others that at which you are not experiencing yourself. So can you talk a little bit more about how who you are manifests itself in the level of excellence in the events and experiences that you create?
Yeah, so let me unpack that a little bit. For me, it all started, and it starts with the end goal. So when we were originally building Project years ago, the end goal at that point in time remains to what it is today, which was to create an entity, a company that was unlike other experiences that I had. And so for my experience, it was working for experiential agencies, and it was working for brands, and it was also touring with bands. And I saw some fundamental things that I didn't like within those different institutions. And primarily it was how people were being treated, the accolades, or I guess you could say, gratitude for the people that worked at those different institutions. And I wanted to change that. And the North Star, jumping into a little bit of that, was how could I change that and do it better, but still build a business? And my conclusion was looking at what I really was good at and what I am good at, which is building connections, authentic connections, and giving people opportunities, because I genuinely love to be able to connect people and give them opportunities. So originally the North Star was that. It was rooted in how could I help people and how could I utilize my network for that. And then it came to be where I was like, okay, well, how do we monetize this? How could one monetize their network or their people? And I kept pushing forward until ultimately I was able to connect with people that were smarter than me, that had different skill sets that were better than the skill sets that I was lacking in. And then we formed what you could call a founders committee or a steering committee or a mastermind group. And we just kept going towards that North Star, which was let's do something really interesting that helps build a community, that connects people and helps people to share. And ultimately, what came from all that was the original incarnation of Project, which was a connection networking event series that brought together brands, agencies, consumers, and C-level and VIP industry folks into one roof. And that kept driving us forward to ultimately where we ended up, which was a full service experiential marketing agency. But had it not been from the fundamental principles of having a good vibe, wanting to do something different than has been done before, we wouldn't have had the success that we originally had.
I love that. And I want to be very intentional about something, because a lot of what you just said, I am manifesting and doing in this podcast in terms of connecting people. You and I, Joe, we've been able to deepen our relationship through a series of podcasts on top of everything that we've done offline together. And I also want to be able to connect you with my audience. And I know on your end, you want to be able to connect me with your audience, because we are givers and connectors who believe that the best way that we can do business in the energy that we have is like, man, if there's a way that I can introduce someone to Joe, I know the level of excellence of what you guys do. So I'm looking at all opportunities to say, how can I connect people to Joe? So with this platform that I have right now with this show, Joe, what I want you to do is to give a quick, hey, who are you looking to connect with? How can my audience help you or connect with you?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. I appreciate that. So, Groundswell Experiential is that we're an experiential marketing agency, and we focus on building amazing experiences for brands to connect them with their audience, which is consumers, or in some cases, it's a business to business play. So, we're primarily interested in meeting with brands, people that have a need to create an experience both online and offline. We love connecting with people that are content creators. We have a really interesting new department that just opened up that's led by Patrick Welby. He's the director of our experiential content, where we're creating content from experiences. And there's a big difference there. It's not social media influencers that are posting different things that are happening in their day. It's about the experiential content. So for us, it's really wanting to get in front of interesting, forward-thinking brands that understand the importance of experiences and how that could help them market and sell their products.
Are there specific verticals? Because one thing that I really like to do is they're like, man, if we can laser in on the types of people or companies that this could be.
Yeah, we have a pretty big focus right now in a couple different verticals: esports, consumer packaged goods, spirits and alcohol, technology, fashion, and lifestyle.
Cool. So if you're listening to this or watching this and Joe is speaking to you or someone that you know, reach out to Joe or reach out to myself and let's make a connection, because on my end, one of the goals that I have with this show, aside from just being in conversation, is I want to create more conversations with others, the people who are listening to this, and build a more valuable network for everyone. Because I believe one of the best gifts that I can give is the gift of conversation and possibility, because I specialize in three things, among others: growth, impact, and thought leadership. And I do that around brand building. Hey, do you want to create a show, whether it's a video and podcast show like this? Do you want to build a podcast? All the way up to, I'm really expanding my coaching business to help people who have a vision say, hey, how can I get there? Can I perform better? Can I have a better mindset? There's so many opportunities. So I want to invite you, if anything that I say resonates with you and you would like to be in conversation about how I could be an asset to you on your journey, hit me up on social at Rob Cressy, everywhere, slide into my DMs, or rob@baconsports.com. So Joe, can you give where can people connect with you? So we know who you're looking for, but if they actually want to make that happen.
Yeah, so our website is groundswell.buzz, and it's spelled just like you think it is, .buzz. That's the best way to get a hold of us, and that's the best way to see our past work, our capabilities, and learn a little bit more about the team.
Awesome. So I do want to get back to the following your North Star, because I know on my end, it is such an important thing. And I host another show called Leadership DNA alongside Arturo Gomez. And we just published an episode around well-defined purpose. And what we really wanted to do was talk about how important purpose is to us. And for me, my purpose is my North Star. My purpose is to be a positive force for good that leads others to what's possible. And I know for you, Joe, when you started Project and now you're a Groundswell, you had mentioned to me that following your North Star was so important. So can you talk a little bit more about that and how that can be important to somebody else who wants to grow and have more impact?
Yeah, so I don't. We've talked about this a lot, and I talk about this all the time, both on different podcasts and online, as well as in personal conversations. And this needs to be taught, I think, in master classes, as well as just in school curriculum, because it's so important. If you don't know what you want, you're going to get whatever life gives you, and that could often lead to results that aren't too good. And when I say define your North Star, I'm not saying you need to have a full plan of what's going to happen every day for the rest of your life. What I mean specifically in this, and there may be other interpretations of it, is start with just how you want to feel eventually. How do you want to feel when you're in college, knowing that in a couple of years you're going to be in the workforce? Or if you're starting your career, how do you want to feel after 4, 5, 6 years of being in your profession? Or after that 4 or 5, 6 years in your profession, how do you want to feel when you make that next jump? If you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you want to have a larger title, what does that feel like? Or better yet, what do you want your life to be like? And again, it's not about every specific detail. The North Star is there. It's always there, and it can help guide you. And that's the same principle. If you start with something small. So for example, for me, I always knew at a young age that I wanted to be in entertainment. I didn't know to what extent I wanted to be in the entertainment business, but I just knew I wanted to. So I let that feeling guide me to go to UNLV in Las Vegas, University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And then there I found opportunities with producing concerts for the college students. And then once I was able to define that a little bit more, I was like, you know what? I really want to go on tour one of these days and experience what it's like to be with a band traveling around the world. So then that became my North Star. Not so much the logistics of it, but what it felt like to do that. And then that led me to other ambitions and to other areas of the North Star. So it's absolutely important. And it's the best piece of advice that I give to everyone is define that North Star, because people could do this, and people do this, just as there's naturally gifted athletes out there that are just good at whatever athletics that they're into, or they're naturally smart at mathematics or something like that. They're just naturally good at those things. They will use that North Star unconsciously. But imagine being a natural athlete or a natural user of the North Star, and you have intention put behind that. That's where the real magic happens. And there's probably people listening that are like, oh, this is, whatever. But my whole career has been blessed with that success because of the North Star. The office, the camera that you're watching me on, the computer that I have, the people that we work with have all been derived from the North Star.
Joe, I often say success leaves breadcrumbs. And this is one of the breadcrumbs, because everything that you just said about everything that you have and how that relates to your energy and your vibe and your North Star, I am the exact same way. And what I really love about this, that I want to sort of wrap the bow on the entire conversation, is we started off talking about the importance of your vibe and your energy. And then you said, when looking at following your North Star, how is it that you want to feel? And as I look at the original premise of the show, best year ever, and how that goes all the way down to the micro of the way that you have the best year ever is to have the best moment ever. And when you're designing your life, not living by default, you're designing, it really becomes about how you feel in this moment. And Joe, right now in this moment, talking to you, I am doing what I've always dreamed of doing, being creative, having conversations with awesome people who are doing awesome things, being a connector, building a network, and being a positive force for good for others in the world. And so often we can be so outcome based, where we have this mountain that we want to climb on the horizon, but it is really our ability to focus on the moment and the way that it makes us feel. Because right now I feel so much joy and love and passion and inspiration in talking with you. And that's why I created this show in the first place, because I want to transfer it to others. And so often people need to see it or experience it from somebody else before they can be more intentional about realizing it themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. One more quick comment on this is the realities that we face each day when it comes to, like you were saying, like planning your life and building that could be overwhelming. But practicing a North Star technique is a very small thing. And I think you hit it on the head about the moment. Moments create greatness. And to me, that's very important. Think about when you're in a pitch with a new client, or you're working on a brief, or you're trying to win business. Every little thing that you do could lead to the success or the demise of that. So each moment is extremely important. And I would rather fill those moments with positivity and something good than think of something bad. And unfortunately for me, the moment that I think of something bad, it happens because of that energy. So I encourage everyone that's listening in the audience, start small, and it's never too late to start.
So, Joe, I like to end every show with an action item or a takeaway. And for me, I'll get this party started. And I'm gonna actually yes and what you had just mentioned. My action item is to consciously and intentionally have one positive input in your morning. You may be doing it already. I want you to have one more, because what I did is I envisioned the person doing the pitch, the biggest moment of their culmination. And you know what that really is? When you wake up in the morning and you've got a positive input, whether it's you're reading and enjoying that morning coffee, you're meditating, or you're journaling, that is contributing to your greatness. It is a micro dose of greatness every single time that you do it. So my action item, go and add one positive input to your morning. And I would love to hear from you on what that is. Hit me up on all social platforms at Rob Cressy, specifically LinkedIn or Instagram. I want to hear from you. Talk to me about one of your positive inputs. Joe, what about you? Do you have an action item or a takeaway for the listener?
Yeah, I think what's helped me tremendously throughout the years is writing down what I want to have happen, specifically for business. And I'm not talking about long journal entries, but just something small. And I say it typically with this: I'm so happy and thankful that we won XYZ business. And that just really has worked for me. And I think that's a key takeaway. Write down what you want to have happened with gratitude and in the present moment. I am happy and grateful that this happened. Even though it hasn't happened yet, write it down that way. And I guarantee with a consistent practice of that, you're going to start to see some really interesting things happen.
And I completely believe in that, because I do that on a daily basis. And the simplest thing that you can do, just give yourself the permission of 15 or 20 minutes, set a timer, and just write down all of the things that you want and do it from the tense of I have. And a crazy thing will happen. You go ahead and read that every single morning, and you will experience the gift of having that. And then all of a sudden, you'll get one of those things and you'll be like, oh my God, did this thing work? And then once you manifest one of those things, all of a sudden, to those who have more is given. All of a sudden, you're going to have this magnetic energy that comes to you where you're like, how in the world is everything growing and how am I having so much more impact? Well, you were actually the one who created it by putting that energy in the world and creating that vibe.
Yeah, good points. And I think one last thing is when you're doing those, you have to really pay attention to what you're asking for, because you're not asking for to win that big piece of business. What you're asking for is that feeling of what it feels like to win that business. And there's a big difference there. And we always get what we ask for. That's why it's very important to be careful. And applying this to business, you have to be very careful about that and be very conscious of what you're actually asking. So I go back to what I just said. You're not asking to win that big piece of business. You're actually asking for that feeling of what it feels like. That could be security. That could be more runway for your business. That could be the feeling of excitement. So that's something to harness. And I think it's a whole nother conversation for us to have at some point.
Absolutely love that, Joe. Joe, where can everybody connect with you on social media?
Yeah, my personal handle is Event Joe. So at Event Joe on Twitter and Instagram. And then for Groundswell Experiential, it's groundswell.buzz.
And on my end, hit me up at Rob Cressy on social media, or head to robcressy.com if you're someone who's ready to invest in yourself and your personal development and you want some support to get to the next level and accelerate your growth. I would love to invite you to a conversation. I've got a link on my page or on the website for a jam session. We can schedule something, jam a little bit more about what you want to accomplish and how I can get you there. Joe, loved jamming with you. Thank you so much for that insight. I'm looking forward to all our future conversations.
Definitely, Rob. You have a great day, buddy.